Welcome to the Marvel Alliance podcast, where we cover anything and everything to do with the Marvel Universe. From comics, TV, and movies, we'll go from the Mojoverse to Earth 616 to the Negative Zone to bring the Marvel Universe right to you. My name is the Uncanny Chris.
I am the podcaster Mischief Trasnell.
Alliance
Assemble. Man, I'm excited today because this is one we talked about. We said on social media, we've talked about this episode even before we thought starting this podcast. So, I'm very excited. But how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Just got back from vacation a little bit ago. Had a little 4th of July get together. Obviously social distancing at that point. But doing a little private little family cookout, just the wife and me after we put the kids to bed, put some steaks on the grill, do our own little 4th of July and the 5th of July. But happy belated Canada Day to you, my friend.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it sounded like you guys got to do a bit more down there. The most I had seen, I worked Canada Day, but I bike ride to work. It was quiet, except there were these people playing like horseshoe with water bottles. I don't know how the game works, but that's what they were doing. So they look like they're having a fun time. But so there wasn't much festivities, but me and the lady, we did go see the entire Dark Knight trilogy in the theaters. Luckily,
how was that?
It was good. We threw up the grandparents signal and said, "Hey, you want to watch the kids?" And it was great. It was for Batman Begins. There was 3 people in the theater, but then for Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises, they were later because the way the theaters are working, there's only like one screening. You get one screening at this time, so we had the theater to ourselves for the last 2, and it was good. I hadn't seen it since 2009. The Dark Knight Rises, obviously a bit more recent, and I was glad to see Batman Begins because when I saw it, I was younger, but also I wasn't feeling the greatest. But as a kid, it's just I gotta see it because it's Batman. But I remember the theater experience being like I kind of felt sick the whole time, like I had an upset stomach. So I was like, I got to actually sit down and appreciate it. So it was great. Those movies, that's my favorite kind of. I won't say it's the best trilogy because in my heart that's still Lord of the Rings, but it's probably my favorite trilogy because I just love what Nolan does with that world. And it was fun being back in the movie theaters. It was different because it feels like we are living in a movie, because before the movie plays, you get this like 2-minute pandemic video of like, this is how you sit, this is how you go to the bathroom, stuff like that. So it felt strange, but it's good. So it's nice. I had my mask there and everything. They hand them out as well. So hopefully, it's a little thing, but it was nice to just have that experience again. And I finally got my movie theater popcorn, which was good.
There you go.
But the double cross is, I think, because they're not doing refills here in Canada right now because the distancing and whatnot, they double on the butter. So the butter soaked some of my shorts. It stained some of my shorts because it was so much butter. It dripped through the bag. It was disgusting. So I got my butter, but it was like kind of that be careful what you wish for sort of deal. So no, it was good. It was a fun way.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, a little bit of normalcy we'll take in a different way. So
yeah,
we had a good week of shows on Geek Ultimate Alliance this week.
Yeah, we did. And then this week we got a couple more. We got DC Fandom tomorrow. Obviously, you listen to us every Monday. You can catch us, Marvel Alliance, but DC tomorrow. Not DC Fandom, but DC Alliance. I'm sure they'll be talking about fandom because there's all a bunch of rumors. There's a bunch of who do you want to believe? Do you believe Reddit? Do you believe not? I don't know. That's always a tough situation. I'm sure they'll talk about it. There's Santana rumors going around, so that's crazy. And then this Wednesday, what is your retro coming up this week?
The retro is we've got Chris Rimmer from DC Comic Squad cast talking about probably my favorite graphic novel of all time, Kingdom Come. So
really,
that's retro.
That's exciting. I didn't know that was your favorite.
Yeah, if I had to pick one that I could, it's just everything about it. I'm a Elseworld sucker when it comes down to it.
Yeah.
But Alex Ross, Mark Waid, combine it with that just story and the Easter eggs on top of Easter eggs. I mean, that's one of my favorite absolute editions I own. It's definitely, like I said, put a gun to my head at this point, it's basically my number one. That's my favorite.
Yeah, that's your, like, if you're stuck on an island for the rest of your life, you're taking, you only get one and then you take Kingdom. Yeah, that's, yeah.
And people would be like, well, that's just 4 issues. I said, I know, but it's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Do you have one for Marvel like that? Because I'm trying to think. My Marvel one is like kind of all over, but like I kind of lean towards something X-Men or even Daredevil Born Again, because that's one that I've read many times and it's just like rich with characters. But then my DC one's Long Halloween. That one I read kind of twice a year. That's my Kingdom Come of, like, if I have to go on an island with one, that's the one I'm bringing with me.
Yeah, since I'm a huge X-Men fan and this show being what it is today, my go-to for X-Men I always love rereading is Fatal Attractions.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, I think for me with X-Men, like, it sounds like cliche, but it is obviously like Dark Phoenix is very good. It's just so good. But Age of Apocalypse as well, because that kind of has that
Yep,
almost
that's
Elseworlds tale. Like it is eventually it resets, but just the fun kind of differences they do with that. And Magneto is just maybe the most badass he's ever been in all of comics when he
mhm.
takes on Apocalypse. So for X-Men, I think Age of Apocalypse is again two kind of cliche answers like, oh, those are classics, but it's kind of like Kingdom Come. There's a reason they're classic because they're so good, you know.
Oh yeah, yeah, no, yeah. Age of Apocalypse was a good one for X-Men. Yeah, I mean, I think with Marvel, yeah, I think yeah, like I said, it's Fatal Attractions and followed by Age of Apocalypse. But Spider-Man, there's tons of different choices. I got Daredevil, tons of different choices. I mean, I like it all.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Mostly at that point.
We're pretty lucky. Same thing in
Uh,
the world. We still got tons of like great comic books happening right now. So
exactly. So, but yeah, so we want to go to our fan and fiction poll results from last week.
yeah, I will pull it up. So are you ready this week? Are you ready with your fact or fiction, sir?
Yep, yep. I've got a spare back. I've got four, but I've got to. I'll probably pull an audible and decide at the last minute what that one and save the other one for later.
That's always good. So first off, we talk about, we as we said, it's a running joke here, but Doctor Doom comes up every week. So we'll see if he comes up next week because who knows? We have no topic dedicated to him. But we had a fact or fiction last week. It was my turn, and I said Doctor Doom's first MCU appearance will be in a Fantastic Four film. 67% went fact, 33% went fiction. I think we both went fact. You're more strong on me, but I think I was kind of on the line because I still think there's a chance he could do a Thanos and just have a cameo at some end credit scene. But fans are kind of going with you on that one. And then what was the other one? Michael Keaton will appear in one more MCU film. That's again 67% fact and then 33% fiction. It was closer when the poll first came out, but then overnight it seemed like it went more of the fact side. But I still, I guess maybe people. I wonder if we ran that poll after he got confirmed for Batman. If that was true, if he gets confirmed, I wonder if people how that poll would shake out.
So yeah, we had Tony at Walkgator 93 say that his opinion will be he will be in Spider-Man 3 somehow on Spidey's side, or he will make a surprise third act appearance.
Yeah, I saw him tweet that. That's tough because it's funny. Obviously, lots of scoopers are saying this probably won't happen, but the original filming date for Spider-Man 3 was starting this September, which, let's say if it did happen, that's what, 2 months away. And I find it strange that we haven't heard any other casting. Like at this point, if we were about to film in September, so that's why I kind of agree with people that we probably aren't filming September because of the world situation. But if we were, I think I need to wait and hear who the main villain is and what the plot is because we've heard tons of rumors of it might be Kraven. We've heard rumors that it might be a Spider-Man on the Run movie. I don't know. So once I hear kind of the villains in the plot, because if it's him on the run, I wouldn't see Michael Keaton appearing. But if it's him in New York, I guess you never know. But also, again, we would have seen it coming up this October. We won't now. What happens to him after Morbius? It looks like, because people have made that conclusion of the prison suit he's in seems like the same prison suit he was in Homecoming. Is he escaping? So if he's escaping, then sure, he's on the run. But if he's escaping, how is he? Is Morbius helping him escape? Is he just there? So once I see Morbius and once I know the Spider-Man 3 villain, I'd see more confident. But obviously that's why I asked the question last week, because I like trying to ask the questions when it's like it's not so clear. Sometimes it is, but once we see Morbius and once we hear the villain, it's going to be pretty obvious if we get Keaton or not. Where now it's like it's all speculative. What do you think? Do you think we will get some filming in September for Spider-Man 3, or you think that's going to be delayed?
I think it's gonna be delayed.
Yeah.
I'm not confident on anything outside of stuff that was already in production at that point getting back. But yeah, we had another one comment at Tim's World 5 said, I heard he might show up for another movie. We'll see what happens. So yeah, I mean, it's Michael Keaton. I'm not going to turn it down. So.
Oh yeah, he's having since Birdman, he's having a career renaissance, and that was 2015. So he's at a 5-year streak of just doing a great job. And before I throw these other fact or fictions, because you and I went down a rabbit hole, or we chased a squirrel, like you guys say on SC, I forgot to plug on Thursday. Star Wars Alliance is back. Yeah, we went off completely. We went into the negative.
You're gonna hear it from Nathan and Katie.
Yeah, we went in the negative zone. Yeah, but they are doing an episode entirely dedicated to Thrawn. He's obviously a big canon character as far as Legends or current canon. Taylor from GeekVerse, our very own, is guesting on there because he has talked about Thrawn since day one, and it's always like I understand him, but it's good like he won't be talking French anymore because he has two other people that are just like canon junkies, so that'll be good. And then Friday, check out this week's episode Superhero Discussions because they just started season 2 of the Superman animated series, so I would say perfect time to go listen to that, and then you can jump on for season 2 episodes 4 to 6. So that's what we're going on the rest of the week. And then the last factor fiction we had was Robert Downey will appear in the MCU in the next 10 years. 71% for fact and 29% fiction. That was a big majority, but I honestly still thought it would be a little bit higher because I feel like everybody that answered it through tweets were kind of the same thing. It's either going to be Black Widow or somewhere else. I just feel like it's a foregone conclusion with it being so big and there's what ifs and whatnot. But yeah, so that was a fact. Everyone was kind of agreeing with us.
Yeah, and yeah, like I said last week, right now, and I had a little discussion with Tony back and forth a little bit, saying, because he agreed he thinks it's gonna be no more than a couple of flashback scenes, and like I said last week, it's hard for me to see anything outside of Black Widow. However, I'm not the writers; it makes it very hard. I just don't want it chewed in. I want it to be done well, but I also want that character to have a little bit of a break.
I agree with you. And plus, like when you say anything other than Black Widow, that's why when I put the 10-year cap, we don't know what they could announce in the 10 years, right? And that's why the next they could do, here's phase 5. And then we see a movie where we're like, oh, that makes complete sense why he'd be in that. The same thing as I talked about before, if that Ironheart ever gets confirmed, I could see them filming a scene where a young Riri Williams, like Tony Stark came to talk at her school and they had a moment where she was just inspired by him, right? And that would take a day of Iron Man. See, that's how much I'm used to him from a day of Robert Downey coming on set, filming some scenes, and almost passing the baton on a little bit. So we don't know what's down the pike, but I think we're almost all of us are like one way or another, we will see that man again. And hey, I'll always take more Robert Downey. I don't want him back alive necessarily, unless they do. I've always said I'd be down for them going to some parallel universe, and if he's a villain of a universe, great. But I don't need actual Tony Stark back in the near future. So.
Yeah, I agree. So so good feedback. Good on that one. Do we have any listener questions this week before we head into some quick bites of news?
Well, we have just some facts or just some statements from last week. So one, I have somebody here. Let me just find out their name so I can shout them out. And this is why you can go, as usual, the plugs. We're all over as far as podcatchers, so you can go SoundCloud, or not SoundCloud, sorry, Spotify, iTunes, everywhere you want to go. We should be there. If not, just let us know. And then we're also on YouTube. There's no video version as of right now, but it's just on there. I know some people have YouTube Red, so that's where they listen. They get it ad-free. So that's where, as a reminder, you can go over there. The episodes drop the same day as the episodes on the audio feed. But Daniel Scott, who's a subscriber over there, said his suggestion for who should direct Fantastic Four is Guillermo del Toro, which I thought was a very interesting pick. Daniel Scott, I think that would never happen just because I think Del Toro would want too much creative freedom, and I think he would want to take it on a really weird path. But in some world where Fantastic Four was still Fox, and if they announced, hey, he's doing a Fantastic Four, that would have been a very interesting film.
Yeah, no, he is a very he's an auteur in a sense of like you said, he wants to have as much creative freedom as possible, and I'd say give it to him. But Marvel will never do that, especially when they're trying to get the first family of Marvel back into the universe at that point. That might be a bridge too far that they're willing to cross at this point.
Yeah, and with Guillermo del Toro, he's great, but I also feel like he has a style that some people don't enjoy, right? He has a very mythic style, sometimes gothic. It kind of reminds me of, he's not the same as it, but some as Tim Burton, where I know some people just don't enjoy Tim Burton film because they don't really like that theme or vibe he has going on. I do think if we were to ever get one, not that we will, but if we would have at some point, I think Ben Grimm probably would have been the main character because Guillermo loves monsters, and he's always talked about his like obsession with them, his fascination. If you look at so many of his movies, either main characters, side characters are monsters, because he always talks about that he's trying to humanize them and show these people have been casted out because they're different, and I think that if he were to ever do one, Ben Grimm would have been a prime main character, and it could have been from his perspective. But yeah, that's that would, even if it were to happen in the MCU, that would break that would break the internet. That'd be one of those announcements where you're like, really? He's doing that? Because apparently there is rumors he came close to directing a Star Wars movie. There was some rumors of like a
Mhm.
Cantina spinoff, but I guess it fell through because kind of same things, right? He wants to do this and he wants to do that. So, and then another thing from last week, which I want to shout, as always, you can go review us specifically on Apple Podcasts. That helps us climb the charts, and also on Patreon if you want to get this episode ad free or others early, or sometimes there's Patreon exclusives like Flashpoint that went up there early. I know Chris and Travis are going to do kind of a DC animated look back. We have some fun thing. Hopefully we can plan. I'm not going to announce it
Mhm.
until we record it, but July for Comic-Con, we might have a fun kind of crossover episode. But go over there. There's a bunch of tiers. You'll enjoy them. And like I said, get stuff ad-free and early. But you can also drop us reviews. And I wanted to shout out somebody, Movie Lover Dodge 6 gave us a review. Now, here's one thing I always say. We love criticism. So I hope in the future this happens. So this guy gave us, me and Chris were joking about it, he gave the whole podcast feed a 4 out of 5. There's no reason why he gave us a 4 out of 5. So I always, not even in a way of like, hey, I want better. If there's always something, whether it's on Twitter, Facebook, you say, hey, we could do this better. Hey, do that. We're always open to suggestions. So I just want to shut that out. But he said, great show. I think Fantastic Four could be in Black Panther 2, a reversal of the comics where Black Panther was introduced in Fantastic Four. They could battle Namor or be an end credits of Doom kind of being introduction, or Ant-Man 3 to have something to do with the quantum realm. And when I saw that, I was actually thought those were both two good suggestions. The Black Panther one would be fun. That one I see less, but it's a fun. I like what he's talking about, like kind of the role reversal of comics. But I didn't actually think about Ant-Man, and Ant-Man is that
Hmm.
has a lot of potential. I think there's a chance that maybe. Do you think there's a world where we could meet the Fantastic Four in a movie pre-powers and then set them up getting powers down the line? Like we just meet Reed, Sue, and almost meet them as humans first, and then in a movie switch them, because that's how I would take it if we met them in Ant-Man 3. Would meet the scientists first before we met the Fantastic Four.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely possible. It's they always like dropping hints to the future of or either quote unquote Easter eggs or the next movie at that point. So yeah, I could definitely see that if Pym is restarting his business, or they're working, or the Richards are obviously part of the government and they're
Mhm.
working with Pym in a different way. It'll be interesting. Yeah, I could it's definitely foreseeable.
And I think because that's the thing that Ant-Man and Marvel, luckily they've had success all around, critically, financially, and for most fan support. But Ant-Man 3, or Ant-Man and the Wasp, I should say, if you look, those are some of the lower box office ones. And lots of people made that case after Ant-Man and the Wasp that it did well, but did it do Marvel well to get a third one? Obviously, they've announced that there's people writing it. Paul Rudd is apparently helping writing it. There's rumors in MODOK, all this stuff. I think if you put Fantastic Four there as almost that Civil War thing, if you were to introduce them there, that could also give that film a nice bump, because like we talked about last week, they're not the biggest names anymore, but I think they're still big enough name of, oh, they're in Ant-Man 3. That's interesting to even just to see how they set it up. So I think kind of it could I help almost everybody. So that's a good suggestion. Will happen. I don't know. I don't know which route they're going with Ant-Man 3, but hey, if we got MODOK and Fantastic Four, that'd be one hell of a movie.
That would be a very interesting movie to say the least.
Yeah, but that's all the feedback I had from the Fantastic Four from last week.
Cool. Awesome. All right. So we've got a quick hits of news before we get
Mhm.
into the main topic at that point. We'll start off with a couple of really quick ones. We'll start off with from Comic Book Rundown report says that WandaVision season 1 episode count revealed. Looks to be that Murphy's Multiverse recently reported part of a stunt person's resume, which lists WandaVision episode 109 among their credits. And so seems to be, at least looks to be a strong possibility we're getting at least 9 episodes if the stunt person's resume is correct.
Yeah, I'm for this. I'm very curious. That's why I hope before 2020 ends that we get one MCU kind of Disney Plus show, because we saw Mandalorian, we saw that worked. I think there's some pros and cons to how that works. I think some episodes were great and sometimes they felt like filler, and that's my only worry is me hearing 9. In most months you're gonna have 4 weeks in a month, so you have four, and then you have that 1 week where it's like they could get you for, if anybody, which I feel honestly most people subscribed are going to be watching, but let's say someone's just subscribing for a WandaVision, that 9th episode would make you subscribe for a third month. And that's my hope, is that it just was a happy coincidence that happened that way. I guess I have a tinfoil hat on, but it's not the week this could be 8, but let's split it and put it into 2. And that's because to me some Mandalorian episodes felt like that, where it felt like this could have been 1, but to get a little extra they split it, and to me sometimes it might hurt it. So I hope that it was a story purpose and not a subscription purpose. If it is, I get it, it's a business, it's all about money, so I'm not gonna swear at the sky. I understand why they're doing it, but I hope it's story driven and not business driven. So I guess we'll have to wait and see once we get these episodes.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the ones I'm definitely looking. I mean, I'm looking forward to all what they're getting ready to put out, but this is probably the most intriguing just because of who's in it and what it's dealing with.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
So,
I agree. It's up there. I think I take Moon Knight out of the equation because I'm biased because I love Moon Knight. So the ones other than him, this honestly is probably 2 or 3 because Falcon Winter Soldier, the way they left Sam, I'm very interested. But I think I'm more interested in WandaVision because 1, we got those nice Evan Peters rumors around. Go back a few episodes, we covered that. But 2, I just love Scarlet Witch, and I actually think Elizabeth Olsen, for what she's got in the screen time, she's just knocked out of the park every time. Some actors can't do that when it's like, oh, you only got 20 minutes in this movie. I think every time she's brought it. So to get 6 to 9 episodes of her, and of course Vision, but her being fleshed out possibly as a main character, and hopefully, I made that fact or fiction weeks ago of like, would she die? And I said fact, she would die in phase 4. I don't want that to happen. I want her to be a mainstay. I want her to be around for another 5-10 years because I think that character has lots of potential. And I think her as an actress is a very underrated actress. People don't really talk about her when you see best of lists and stuff. So that's what I'm excited for, is just kind of flesh her out.
yeah, I mean, it's just going to be interesting to see when they finally wrap up filming at that point. Clark Gregg apparently also made some statements that with the Loki show that may end up airing 10 to 12 episodes at that point. So it's always good that it's a vote of confidence at that point, to see that they want some more of these characters fleshed out and kind of moving on from there. Our next story is a real quick one also. Doctor Strange 2 news. Ejiofor, I wish I could pronounce his first name.
Chiwetel Ejiofor.
Chiwetel Ejiofor. Ejiofor. I can always pronounce the last name.
Yeah.
But outstanding actor. I love pretty much everything he's in. I thought, he brought he was great casting for Baron Mordo, and I can't wait to see more of him, and that's what it sounds like we're getting. Is he has confirmed that he will be in Doctor Strange 2. He is talking to, looks like, who was he talking to?
A person with a microphone that had a website.
A person with a microphone, yeah, exactly. Screen Rant. Screen Rant had a chance to definitely much bigger microphones than we have at Screen Rant at that point. But he was talking with Screen Rant about promoting his role for Netflix's The Old Guard, saying, "We're hoping to start pretty soon, is what I can tell you. So as soon as possible. We're really excited to get going and get cracking with it. I can't wait." Again, the way they left his character at the end of it, we knew he was hopefully going to come back. I just think with the back and forth of what Doctor Strange 2 has been and becoming, I think a lot of us were kind of unsure about where does he fit into this, or is he going to be in the background a lot more?
Yeah, so of course, hey, I'll give a shout to Greg just because he loves this movie and he talks about it all the time. But it is a similar trajectory to Green Lantern, where my problem with Sinestro in that movie, I have a lot of problems with that movie. I know we're in this revisionist history where apparently Green Lantern is a fun movie. No, that still hurts my eyes. And one of my problems was Sinestro. I hated this turn of, has some minor quibbles, but then near the end, he's just a full-on villain. I think it was done a little bit better in Doctor Strange, but I think his story suffered a little bit. I think he took the back burner or the side burner a little too much, and it did feel a little bit at the end of a little unwarranted, that end credit scene of him just becoming almost fully evil, taking this guy's powers, making him not be able to walk again. So I do want more fleshing out, but I also think that there's a chance that he may be a villain in this movie, kind of pulling the strings. And then in the third movie, he is the big bad. It's him the whole time. I could be wrong, but it's just a suspicion I get that because we've heard rumors of, well, not Scarlet Witch is confirmed, but we've heard rumors of Nightmare and some other characters. So it just feels like it's filling up really quickly. So I think he will more be like a Saruman to a Sauron, in a way where Saruman was around, he's doing lots of things, but he doesn't get a big send-off in Lord of the Rings. But I think that would be different in this, where he's pulling the strings, and then maybe at that end of the movie, Doctor Strange finds out, oh, it was Mordo, and that kind of sets up the third one. That's my opinion. I could be wrong. Obviously, this film's gone through lots of changes, so those rumors could be outdated as well. But I want his character around more, so to me, it can kind of get have a better showing than Doctor Strange, which I like him in. I don't
Yeah.
know, no problem with performance for me at least.
Yeah, he's just a lot of actors. He's just one of those that he gets on screen. He just brings some gravitas, either his speaking, his carrying. I just enjoy seeing him. But being Baron, I agree with you. Baron Mordo could have been a little bit more fleshed out, but with all origin stories, things are going to get left behind or not as fleshed out. But he is one of Doctor Strange's big bads, so
Yeah.
I would love to see him really get to stretch his villain muscles now that we know he's turned villain.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Chris and I hope you're enjoying another edition of the Marvel Alliance podcast. We're about to throw some ads right now. These ads help build the channel. They help support every single show here on the feed. The thing is, who we're partnered with, we don't get to select the ads and we don't get to select the volume of the ads, unfortunately. So we're giving you this warning to adjust your headsets, turn down that volume so you can listen to all these ads and support the Geek Ultimate Alliance. I'm going to give you a countdown. You're going to hear some ads and then you're going to go right back into the episode. 3, 2, 1.
And our last one today is looking at Anthony Mackie, also coming from a comic book report, CBR, and Anthony Mackie calls out Marvel for racial inequity behind the camera. He spoke with Variety. They're doing a series called Actors on Actors. Recent one that I thought was really cool. As it says, Actors on Actors, and a recent one I saw was Patrick Stewart talking with Henry Cavill, which was kind of fun.
Mm-hmm.
But he had made the statement saying, it really bothered me that I've done 7 Marvel movies where every producer, director, stunt person, costume designer, every PA, every single person has been white. He pointed out saying that we've only had one black producer, and his name was Nate Moore. He produced Black Panther. And then when you do Black Panther, you have a black director, producer, you have black costume designers, stunt coordinators, choreographers. And I'm like, that's more racist than anything else, because if you can only hire black people to do a black movie, are you saying they're not good enough when you have a mostly white cast? Personally, he brings out a very excellent point, and this is something that Marvel also has had to deal with, whether it comes to race, gender. We know a lot of behind the scenes work of just preventing, certain characters from getting on screen at that
Yeah.
point. Those people are no longer involved. Good for him. I applaud him on what he's doing. He brings out a good point. This is a bigger problem, not just with Marvel. This is a Hollywood problem, and it's been going on for many, many years. And me as a white man, I don't, I'm not one to speak on this, nor am I in Hollywood necessarily, but like I've heard, you and I have a platform, and I voice my support to this, because this needs to change. He's right. This is a more systemic and more subtle problem that it's people can't just hide behind it. We need to make an active effort to fix this.
Well, no, I agree. And when you say that it's a Hollywood problem, it is, but it's still, unfortunately, you look at the times now, it's almost just a world life
Oh
problem.
yeah.
It's in so many
I was just
businesses.
saying,
And as
in this particular thing, it's
oh yeah,
not just a Marvel, it's a Hollywood. But you're right, exactly. It is a worldwide problem.
yeah, and it's just it is crazy. And if you guys know me from GeekVerse, Kyle, he co-hosted with us for about 2 years. He lives in Australia now. He's living his best life. He's having a good time out there. He's a black man. He's been my best friend for about 8 years now. And when you talk to somebody that is not white, that is not straight, you get a very different experience. And because there's things that he's had to experience or go through that I will never, ever have to deal with, especially being both those as far as straight and white, and that's a thing that some people might bring up and be like, oh, nothing's bad about it. Nothing is bad about it, but it's good to shine a light and say, hey, we need to talk to people. We need to understand their problems. That's why I was kind of a little bothered by there were so many people showing like, well, look, his stunt man is also black. That doesn't mean there's still not a problem. Just because there's a few other people like him, that doesn't mean all around the majority is still one certain color, one certain type of sexual orientation. And we keep having this conversation, which is very unfortunate. I think that's where brought the whole businesses thing. As far as diversity and stuff, that's a conversation that's been going on for a while. I mentioned a few weeks ago, I'm a big professional wrestling fan. And in wrestling, they used to have this term, and it was very bad, but they used to have this term or the saying, only one. And that meant that they had wrestling territories, but every promoter made sure they only had one black wrestler, not because of talent, anything like that, just because, oh, well, we need one, but that was it. And that's where I get where I saw some pushback on him saying about the Black Panther stuff, and that's where I understand where he's coming from as well, because I love in a world where right now people sometimes say, oh, you're forcing diversity. I sometimes think you kind of have to, because there's many years before now when you put out casting call, and if they say we're looking for someone specifically black, and I've heard this argument like, well, why do they need to be black? Because maybe it wasn't public, but for decades and decades, there were casting calls where people may say under the table saying, hey, we want a white person for this. We don't want a gay person. We don't want a black person. We don't want a Mexican person. This person needs to be white. So that's why it's kind of that balancing act as far as, yeah, there has to be more forced diversity, because there was forced undiversity for decades of people just pushing people back just because their color of their skin or sexual orientation, not because their talent. And I think, obviously, I'm with everyone else. It needs to change. But I do want a world where I think right now it does have to be Captain Marvel 2 is looking for a director. It's very likely she will be a female. And some people might go like, I want the best person for the job. That's true. But the unfortunate thing is we're not at that state yet. We're hopefully getting there, but we're still not in that state. I want a day for in the future where a female director has a take on Wolverine and she can do it. I want to take where a male has a take on Captain Marvel, like the Russo's brothers say, we have a great idea for Carol. We want to do the story. But right now, I think it would be, well, you guys are two guys and we don't want to do that. We want to show some diversity. I hope in the future it is that what everyone says. I want the best person for the job, but we're still not at that place yet. We're still not. We've seen so many times where we move 2 steps forward, but then 5 steps back. So I support what he's saying, and I agree that kind of everywhere needs to make a change.
And he goes on, kind of echoes your point. He says, my big push with Marvel is to hire the best person for the job. He said, if even if it means we're going to get the best 2 women, we're going to get the best 2 men, fine. I'm cool with those numbers for the next 10 years, because if it starts to build a new generation of people who can put something on their resume to get their other jobs. Again, we have to start, and guess what? This was a huge metaphorical, this is a huge just hole we have. Everyone is responsible for in some way, shape, or form, and we have to be cognizant of that and start fixing it one step at a time. And I applaud him. I applaud Ray Fisher and his comments recently. Just this whole thing is just people. Guess what? This has been going on for much longer than you and I have been in existence, and you know what? I want to see change. I want to be a part of that change.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. There is many years where you couldn't speak out, and even still, speaking out is dangerous. We had John Boyega a few weeks ago during the Black Lives Matter. He was in those kind of protests and whatnot, and he was honest. He said, "Hey, this could put my career in jeopardy." And I think there was a time where it does. Even myself, to be honest, when Ray Fisher tweeted out that initial tweet, my instinct is go, "Oh, like that." That you could get in hot water, and then I have to think about like, no, like he should be talking. He should be. It is still, and that's why I agreed that, and I'm sure they'll cover this on DC tomorrow. Like I agreed with him providing more context after, because I always like more context, and I think that's what Mackie did here as well. He provided context because yeah, of course there's other black people working at Marvel, but he's talking about he doesn't want it to feel like a forced issue, and I get that point, and I like I said my statements earlier, I understand why it is a forced issue, but I hope it is in the future where it's just we're just hiring the best people, and obviously that's a big thing. We have that coming with Eternals. We have that coming with Miss Marvel. There may be some people that feel like it's forced diversity that might not like it. At the end of the day, I feel like you're probably going to watch it, but the best thing is if for some reason it's really bugging in you, and which I don't know why, I think you need to kind of look in the mirror, but if it is, you don't have to watch it. I don't need to hear you complaining about on Twitter. If you feel someone's forcing diversity down your throat, it's kind of like the old expression, just change the channel. But I think you should look at yourself and kind of be a part of that movement and go, well, why are we forcing diversity? Why do we want diversity? It's because for so many years we didn't have it. There's so many years that I have so many movies where I see myself. I remember Black Panther when I saw it the first time. Where I live in Kelowna, in Canada, it is not white is the majority here. When I went to see Black Panther, the majority of the theater was black people, and I was caught off guard. I remember too the first time as a kid, like kind of in my going to my teens, when I used to go to WrestleManias all the time, I've been to 12 of them. Me and my dad would do these trips, and I went to Atlanta, and that was the first time ever where the population there has a big black population. And I was talking with these girls and whatnot, and we were talking about that, and we ended up joking around. We took a picture, and there's my dad has a picture of me and these 20 girls, and they're all black. They were having this trip or whatnot. And that was the thing where it was the first time in my life I looked around like, wow, I'm not the majority here, and it felt off. And then I thought about it, and I think that's where it put in perspective to me. People that are not white feel like that all the time, almost every day of their life, whether it's in business, whether it's their life. And that's where I think you just, if you're questioning diversity, just think about why. Why is it such a hassle? And why can't you be a part of the change or helping? Like, just think about it. And you don't know until you walk around in someone else's shoes. And I can never do that, but I try my best, whether it's through my friends or being online or reading books. I try my best to, okay, how can I help? And I try, we're not all perfect. We can't make change in one day, but you gotta do everything you can kind of one day at a time.
Hmm. Yeah. So late to see at that point. Hopefully, I think I like to think positive that we are in the midst of changes occurring, and I think he did it very respectfully. And the title they're calling out, it is what it is at that point. But I
Hmm.
think he did it very respectfully and didn't throw really anyone under the bus. It's his truth. It's what he has experienced and what he has seen. So you can't really doubt that at that point. So,
No, yeah, exactly.
but we'll see what comes about. But that's all the news we got. So now we've come to the granddaddy of our big topic today. As you said, as we open the show, this is one that was on our list of kind of topics we want to look at. So we're going to spend pretty much majority of the time looking at bringing the X-Men into the MCU proper. So a lot of different ideas. We have kind of created some kind of guiding questions at that point. We put out the shout out on Twitter for you all to kind of give us your fan theories of different topics. So, I'm excited.
Yeah, I wanted to just start with kind of where we started last week. We've talked about it a little bit, but what was your experience with X-Men? I think if people have listened so far, they kind of know we both love X-Men. X-Men's my favorite Marvel property. But how did that get to you to be X-Men being your favorite? And like I said, just kind of your first experiences with X-Men.
It's kind of a combo with the comic and the animated show.
Yeah.
Just something about what the X-Men represented in the sense of, when Stanley created it and brought them forward, you know, in the civil rights movement, there was a metaphor for the civil rights movement. Well, the X-Men are so many different metaphors of just being different. It's in general how you feel. When do you feel like the outsider? What do you do? And looking at the power within you at that point. Them physical mutant powers, but the power within you to overcome that and fight against those who want to put you down. I mean, I just love the message X-Men has always represented. And it's been one of my all-time favorite Marvel characters, the X-Men teams.
Yeah, I think we talked about this on our debut episode, but I was the same way where the X-Men animated series and then my cousins have comics. But like I said, there's this big kind of like encyclopedia X-Men comic. I had two of them. I had that one and Batman, and that's probably some of the reason why Batman's my favorite DC character and X-Men my favorite Marvel, because I just spent ages of reading about different characters, their origins, where they're from. Like I love those books where just like had the stats and stuff like that, and like how long they've been living. Like when you know a character's birthday, then that's when you're starting to get really invested in them. And I think the same reasons as you, and we were just talking about with Anthony Mackie, where the X-Men can represent so much to so different people. Because I think even from the little bit of if you've been bullied in school for something to the harsh reality of what we just talked about with Anthony Mackie and people profiling you because of race, there is something with the X-Men. Like I said, if you're a little kid and you've been picked on, you've been bullied for, if you wore glasses, if your hair looked a certain way, that's the X-Men, but that's the X-Men and their life. That's them every day, and they're all for different reasons. They're an outcast to the nth degree, and these are people that are trying to change and make a difference in the world and help the world, but they're still, and as we talk about, check out our comic club, even in the worst of times when they're helping out, they're still looked upon as sometimes trash, and it's crazy to think about. But I think it's just always a good allegory for many things that's happening in life, and I think for me that's always been the most interesting, and that's why for me certain comic books, that's why I'm a big fan of the Black Panther movie. Once they introduced race in there and talking about that as a major theme, I was like, this is more than just Team A needs to fight Team Evil for a big bomb, you know? Because I love that. I love a classic, just a good beat 'em up. But for me, I always love something a bit deeper. And with X-Men, for the majority, I think that's when X-Men's at its best, is when it is dealing with those deeper issues. And I think obviously just down to the core, starting with Xavier and Magneto, you have that off the jump. You have two characters that you could look at and see both sides of point of view, but one is clearly in the wrong because they've gone to the steps of, now we need to start taking lives, we need to almost do terrorist acts. But again, you still, almost like Killmonger and Black Panther, you understand why, and lots of X-Men films did that very well. So I think there is just so many angles with the X-Men. It was never cut and dry, it was never black and white, it was shades and shades of gray, with along that just interesting characters, great artists, great writers. You know, there's a plethora of great X-Men tales. So yeah, that's kind of my origins as well. Animated series, comics, and they're still my team. They're
Hmm.
they're they're they are the standard for me as far as Marvel. That's, I always think about this. I joke, but I think about this almost every day when Marvel comes to, like, how are they going to do the X-Men, you know? And that's why I'm excited to talk about, because we've like talked a little bit about it so far, but I'm excited. So where did you want to start with X-Men coming
Yeah,
in the
let's start.
MCU?
Yeah, let's just talk about like our ideas of how they can bring it into the MCU. So, we'll start with you. Well, I'll have you go first on this one. What's your kind of Cliff Notes version of how to bring him in?
So this is tough because there is so many ways. People have brought up parallel universes. People have
Hmm.
brought up the whole, oh, they've been around the whole time, which you could almost do, which I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit today and more in the future. Is House of X is almost like this cult, kind of hidden away sort of idea. I'm on the impression that I think the best route to go is it happen after Endgame, and not even because some people said, "Oh, the snap," whatever it may be. Mutants are starting to pop up now. Brent brought this up from Marvel Squadcast. I'm the same thing as like Eternals is a good place. That's one of the origins of X-Men, and that could be a possibility. That's one of our Twitter questions. Is somewhere in Phase 4, I think it was from Tony. Could we see a mention of X-Men at all, or mutants? And even just the word mutants has a good possibility of popping up in Eternals. I think the best thing is to do whatever. So what, they jumped 5 years ahead, right? So technically, what, they're like 2023 or something in their timeline. Whatever it is, whatever the present day MCU is, they debut there and they start forming there. I have one person that I think could have been around for generations. I think maybe two, and I'll hold on that when we get to those two. But I think majority, Xavier, Magneto. Sure, you maybe lose some. They've had their powers this whole life, but it's it's tough then. Like, even when I say that, I contradict myself, because it is just like, well, yeah, because then Xavier and Magneto, like I said, they kind of have to be younger, but maybe it is just something happened. And even it's, like I said, it's a different type of take, but even a 30, 40-year-old Xavier is just getting these powers now, and he hasn't had them his whole life. And that's something that I think that's what I will start this conversation with, which I have to tell myself all the time. I do think it will be a lot like Spider-Man MCU, where it will be a lot different than classic X-Men tales. And there's part of me that really is disappointed, because I want to see those classic X-Men tales done right, like a Dark Phoenix, Apocalypse, like certain characters. But for the sake of being different and the sake of fitting the MCU, I think it will. They're gonna have to do some changes to the source material, and I have that a couple places. But that's my bare bones thoughts. Is they get introduced now. Maybe some of them haven't had since they were kids. I think that's why you make lots of the mutants younger, teenagers. But yeah, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, kind of along those lines of, I've always thought, the snap can, ignite something at that point. I love the way they did it in the ultimate line with its government experiment at that point, which I
Yeah.
could definitely see as our, we've seen what the government in the MCU does, and it's typical of any government at that point, a response to the Avengers and those with powers at that point, and so maybe, something with Wanda and WandaVision ignites it at that point too. I think some sort of combo with the snap, the government, and maybe Wanda, at the very least, this combo of the snap and the government experiment,
Mm-hmm.
I could definitely see, when we come down to Xavier and Magneto, these are characters that, like you said, we love their origin stories, we love it from the comics. However, it's going to be very difficult to have a Holocaust survivor, in this society at that point. It's just they've almost aged out of that storyline, so they almost have to create still have Charles, still have Magneto, but they kind of have to. I mean, if we want to hold on to the genocide storyline of him, unfortunately there are plenty to choose from, and and
Yeah.
we can change what that is at that point. And Xavier, like you said, I think that's a great idea that, something happens where his powers lay dormant and then, you know, has it at that point. He really started, his whole delving into his mutant idea. I mean, he was a mutant since birth. However, his whole, in college at that point, writing papers, looking at the whole idea of mutants. So those two characters in general have to change to be a little more updated for what it is, just because it will look ridiculous if you kind of hold on to that.
I agree with you, and it's almost something they could lift from the Deadpool movie is how do
Mhm.
they get Deadpool's power? They say, oh, well, everyone has a mutant gene. It just might be a little harder to get out of you, you know? And that could be the
Yeah.
way that
Hmm.
this is dormant in these characters, but
Yeah.
these characters that become stronger have that. So has there been any, for you, entertaining possibility of there's been a parallel universe of X-Men or them being around the whole time? Because the parallel universe, I think, creates problems. And for me, I'm with a lot of people. I don't like that they've been around the whole time because I know they're mutants. I know there could be problems, but we haven't seen the world deject them. So the fact that Endgame happened and they didn't appear at all, I would always question of like, I don't know. And this is where this is an off-topic thing, but I'd love to get your thoughts on this. Is that's my almost theory of two why I'm on the side of Cap didn't time travel back in time. He went to a parallel universe because I don't think my Captain America would let like JFK get assassinated, Martin Luther King get assassinated. I don't think he would let 9/11 happen. I think he's living in a parallel universe somewhere where his universe is like a fucking utopia, and then he comes back to our universe and it's like, oh, like it's still where I'm from, but it's home, but my place is a lot better. So that's my whole thing. Like, I don't see the X-Men just sitting around while the world could possibly be ended by this tyrant, but that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, I could take both sides at that point. I could see where, they're I don't like that they've been around for a very, very, very long time. I could
Hmm.
see them very recently, their powers are starting to come forth, but they don't know how to deal with it, and you don't have a leader to represent you or
Okay.
find some as Xavier and Magneto will represent at that point. But I don't want to get in the whole time travel debate. That's a rabbit hole we can go down for another day. But I'm at least on your side on the sense of the if they've been around for a while, it can't be like for the last 50 years. It makes it very hard, like you said, to kind of say, well, where have you been? Because the no leader thing can only go so long at that point. Now, could I see them, Eric and Magneto and Charles and maybe a few others possibly being behind the scenes and kind of being in key positions at that point, trying to figure out what the government does know or to kind of gather their resources so that they can, gather their own mutant teams. I could see that at that point being very quiet about it, but there's going to be a lot of headcanon if they do go down that route, which again, guess what, guys and ladies, it's comics,
Yeah.
we're just going to accept that fact.
Yeah, it is, and that's where it's tough, right? Because it's almost like the prequel thing I've talked about at times, where if you do that, then there is a lot of holes where it could be like, well, if that happened there, why didn't that happen? Or oh, this already happened. So I am in the camp, like I said. I hope it is just starting out. I want to ask you: is there any specific runs or comics you think that they're gonna maybe use as inspiration? We've kind of seen with like Ultimate Spider-Man being a kind of what Tom Holland's Spider-Man is. We've seen shades of Ultimate already with the Avengers. Do you think we could get that as well with this, or do you see something else being a good source for them?
I think one of the ones, and I'm a huge fan of it, is kind of Grant Morrison's beginning arc of in New X-Men. It's called E is for Extinction. You
Mm.
get a new generation of mutants beginning and maturing across the globe. There's a lot of stuff that's already been established, so they're gonna have to make it a change, some changes. But Master Mold in Sentinel program is now being uncovered by a woman named Cassandra Nova. Uses the last surviving of Bolivia Trask to bring it up, and we get a kind of a very core group of our mutants at that point, trying to, not only put this down, but finding out what Cassandra's true motives are, and it brings, the idea of the nation of Genosha into this. So I mean, there's a lot of stuff that has not been, but it kind of gives a template for what we could bring in as our kind of first story arc. It will have to be very loosely based on it, just because again, there is a lot of stuff that's already been in play with this universe in the comics at that point. But I think it's a good jumping off point.
Yeah. Yeah, I could agree with that. It's tough because there's so many places to pull. I know people want this, but I would say the animated 90s X-Men is not a place they're going to pull from. I think maybe certain designs and costumes and whatnot, and that vibe they definitely should, as far as they really adapt those stories well. But for me, it's tough. I feel like we're gonna get a mixture of a lot of stuff. I feel like we get a little 90s, we could get a little maybe even House of M, which I'm sure we'll talk about, get a little House of X, get a little Ultimate X-Men. I feel like they're gonna take a little bit from everything and kind of create this, pardon the pun, like Ultimate X-Men, where it is just kind of a little bit for everyone. So I think that's the route they're gonna go. I don't think there'll be one like this is the one. Like I said, I feel like Tom Holland's Spider-Man is a lot of the Ultimate Universe. I don't think we'll be able to specifically point to that. I think, oh, they pulled this from this, they pulled this from that. So that's kind of my thinking as of right now. As they go deeper, they might go, hey, we're adapting this full-on storyline arc or run. But I think for the first one or two, it's going to be about really, I think, establishing and rehabbing some of these characters that were maybe not used so well in the Fox universe. If your name wasn't James Howlett Logan, they sometimes didn't care about you. So
Yeah, yeah, we'll kind of talk about that. I don't want to reveal some of my other stuff at that point, but yeah, I mean, you could go a different kind of Claremont's opening run with Deadly Genesis, but again, we there's got to be a ground floor for this. So I think they may take a couple of story arcs from a little bit pieces here or there,
yeah.
but I think it's the next movies will get some of these big stories that we would want to see and bring in at that point. So the first movie, again, pick a little bit from here, pick a little bit from column A, column B, column C, and then we'll get our bigger storylines, because now you finally established them in the universe. Now you can start really playing with a lot of these cool story arcs.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're both on that kind of front as far as them coming. And I think also as far as when they come, I didn't hear you as far as internals. Do you have an idea of, like, obviously there's going to be a phase 5 and we've kind of only known that, okay, Black Panther, Captain Marvel are maybe the kickoff of that, their sequels, but do you have any idea where they may start trickling in, or do you think those are still movies so far down the line that they're not even in that trickle in point?
Um, I could see them start making some hints in phase 5, but I'd still stick by my thing. At the earliest, we'll see them as phase 6.
Wow, still two more phases. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, I think if anything, yeah, we might get some hints in phase 5, um,
I think you could
but
end phase 4 with a solid hint. Phase 4, because that would,
yes, yeah.
yeah, that would get everyone's juices flowing of, like, the last movie, whatever the big, huge movie or a huge crossover is, just an end credit of something, anything showing like a mutant or mention of mutant. Again, I agree with Brent that you could get something in Eternals, but I don't think that will be the big, like, oh, they're coming. I think that will be the, like, oh, my God, like, they used the word, like, remember in Winter Soldier when they said Stephen Strange? Every comic book fan leaned over, like, that's Stephen Strange. And my mom was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, I'll tell you after the movie. But, like, that's what I think you could get when the word mutants is, like, just a mention that everyone else would miss, where at the end of phase 4, I think you'd get that obvious, like, oh, this something is happening. And even the mainstream people would go like, oh, does that mean X-Men? And hopefully it would mean X-Men.
Yeah, I would love it to be in phase 5. I just think since we haven't even started phase 4 yet, it's hard for me to kind of see exactly where they could do it. So yeah, sure, phase 5, phase 6. I just we sh- we need a little bit more seeing how this fourth phase is going to go before I can really feel confident, because I'm just throwing darts at a dartboard at this point. That's why I
Yeah.
kind of push mine off till 6 at that point, till we get really knee deep into X-Men at that point. But yeah, hey, I'm not going to turn it down if it's early.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Chris and I hope you're enjoying another edition of the Marvel Alliance podcast. We're about to throw some ads right now. These ads help build the channel. They help support every single show here on the feed. The thing is, who we're partnered with, we don't get to select the ads, and we don't get to select the volume of the ads, unfortunately. So we're giving you this warning to adjust your headsets, turn down that volume so you can listen to all these ads and support the Geek Ultimate Alliance. I'm going to give you a countdown. You're going to hear some ads, and then you're going to go right back into the episode. 3, 2, 1. Yeah, so where do you want to go to next?
Let's look at kind of a big favorite is, who do we want on our first team? So since I let you, I had you become go first. I'll start on this one.
Perfect.
This is always fun, and I kind of went back and forth a number of times. Um, One character I'm not doing in my first team because I like the character as we come into as we bring in X-Men more and more down the line. There is no Wolverine on my team. Wolverine is one of my favorite characters on the X-Men, but I think him being on there at the start, being how popular Hugh Jackman and brought so much to that role, I think not having him there allows some of the other characters and a lot of complaints that people say that other characters kind of got outshined by him in so many ways. That's fine. It is just the way it is. But my team, I mean, I have my Professor X, but he doesn't count towards mine at that point. You got to have our leader, Professor
Yeah.
X. But our main team is going to be Cyclops, Jean Grey, Nightcrawler, Storm, Jubilee, Warpath, and Darwin.
Ooh, Darwin, there's a pick there. I wasn't expecting that. What a death he got in first class, eh? I like the death, but man, it was poor guy only gets a few scenes. You think you're in an X-Men movie? Nope, they take it away from you. I like that. That's a good lineup. There's I
And my
won't
kind
reveal
of
mine, but we're close. We're close.
Yeah, my thoughts behind it is that I wanted to having your Cyclops and Jean Grey. Those are my necessities at that point,
Mhm.
and I believe I really want to see whoever portrays Cyclops to kind of bring him out to be the leader that he's meant to be. Always a little bit of chip on his shoulder, but that's why I don't want Wolverine right now. I want Cyclops to really shine in this movie with Jean. But with the other characters, Nightcrawler coming from overseas, same with Storm, Jubilee, being of Asian descent, Warpath. He's the brother of Thunderbird. I didn't do Thunderbird because I've grown to really. I know Thunderbird died, spoiler alert, in the comics at that point really early on, but Warpath has been around and I've enjoyed really reading his character and what his power set is. And then that's why another reason why I didn't want Wolverine. I have a kind of a brute strength power guy on
Yeah,
this
bad
team.
boy kind
And
of too.
yeah, at that point, and Darwin, man, I mean, you're right. In first class, didn't do, but what I really loved was this arc, Deadly Genesis, that was brought in with Brubaker, and how much that character got brought back into the forefront, and how I just love his power set and how cool that character is at
Hmm.
that point. So, but yeah, that's kind of my team. I wanted an eclectic group, but a group that could be in theory okay. I could see this. I didn't have a beast, didn't have an Iceman, didn't have an angel. I didn't want to just do the first group again. I wanted to be just a little bit different, so I took a little bit of our first group with a little bit from our next group coming in.
Okay, so yeah, this is we have a similar team again with Marvel. We're pretty on packed on some things. So I have Scott and Jean, of course. They're kind of we've talked about them before. Either it's a two-hander, either Scott's our main character, Jean's our main character. Either one I think works.
Mhm.
I think Scott is kind of that next Captain America like character. He could be that leader, he could be the heart of a team, he could be who does everyone turn to when they don't know what to do? It's Scott Summers. So I think he needs that treatment. Which I think I'm gonna after we're done these teams, I think we should have a conversation about Wolverine because he's kind of like the elf in the room, and I want to talk about like
Yep.
when and where he could come up. But Wolverine is my favorite, but Scott is somebody that always kind of gets like the shit end of the stick lately in these past kind of few decades because it has just been kind of the Wolverine show. So I think the same way if some people go, could you really do it Captain America? Could you have those morals and that smiling guy and everything like that? The MCU may work and I trust them. And that's one of the things where I want to, sometimes I think I sound negative as far as them being too different. That's the thing where I know there's going to be some difference and some changes that I maybe don't like with this X-Men MCU. But the reason I am excited is because I think things like that, the things that Fox really got wrong and really got wrong, MCU will take care and kind of nurture it, whether it is just the actual just continuity, just to start off with, just the point A and point B makes sense. But characters like Scott Summers, who is a vital part of X-Men, who was just, I don't know, just a plot device almost sometimes in those X-Men movies. He was just there to be Jean's boyfriend, and that's what it felt like, which is a kind of a big disgrace to that character who was
Yeah.
an original leader of that character. But Wolverine, because he's badass and he has claws and he sells a lot of shirts, well, let's give it to him. So Scott and Jean, those are my two. Storm, I know Storm's been done a lot, but I think she's just a classic character lots of people know. And I also think there's a high chance that Black Panther 2, they're going to pull a Dark Knight and he's going to lose his love interest. And I know it might be a little cliche, like, do we set them up that quickly? But I think if you're setting up crossovers and whatnot, him and or her and T'Challa possibly becoming a couple, getting married, I think that is a storyline we legitimately could see down the line. And I think that sets up great
Yeah.
potential as far as crossover. So I think Nakia has Rachel Dawes potential as far as she might be in a building one time and it might not go her way. So I got kind of those three going on. This may be a controversial one, but we'll see. And I'll throw it out to you. Maybe we'll talk about villains. I have Magneto on the team. I think Patrick
Okay.
Stewart, fuck Patrick Stewart. It's like the Robert Downey thing. I think
Yeah.
Xavier will be kind of the same thing, the leader as far as giving them directions. But I think Magneto could actually be on this team and they would start with the Descent. I think there's a good chance that Magneto could be benched for a while and not be in these movies at all. But I think if he is to start, he would be with the team and we could see that growing apart and then him leaving, not him being the first villain, which is a little spoiler for one of my answers later on. But I see him being there. And then we talked about diversity and whatnot. I do think this Magneto will be black. I think people put that forward. I think Eve Xavier could be too. You could be doing, literally, it's been on record that Xavier and Magneto are allegories for Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. That's been talked about,
Yeah.
widely known. So it's almost a full circle moment if that happens. Like we talked about, the Holocaust thing doesn't really work. I don't like the two suggestions of he was in the Holocaust and then time travel, or he can age slowly now, which is like, okay, that's a little strange. Like, now we're just trying to make things up with, like you said, unfortunately, there's tons of situations where you could change it. I do think Magneto will be a black character. I think he will. My idea is him
Yeah.
and Xavier are in their mid to late 40s, and the rest of these people are in their mid to late 20s, maybe even early 30s. And then the rest of these people that I'm about to list off right here, Warpath, I have the same thing as you, Bobby Drake and Jubilee. Same thing of adding great characters, but also some diversity, but also characters that Bobby Drake was in the first three X-Men, but he was not a mainstay. I think there's a couple characters which we'll talk about that I think Marvel will avoid, like a Nightcrawler, which I know he have. I feel like they might avoid because they might want to. He was in 4 X-Men. They might want to go, we want to take our own version, where Bobby Drake was not Iceman that much in those movies. I think with CGI and their budget, he could, like the comics, just be Iceman the entire time. So that's where I think they could look at Bobby Drake and go, he's a character that is homosexual now. He is not, we have the budget to make him different. We could take that character and really change him up. Jubilee, she was in a few X-Men for a cup of coffee, so same thing. And same thing as Warpath. Both of them have diversity, but also characters that they could take and mold, and you're not going to think of an actor or a storyline right away and jump to it. So that was my team of Scott, Jean,
Nice.
Storm, Magneto, Warpath, Bobby Drake, and Jubilee. And like I said, Magneto, maybe that's the reason I usually had the idea of 6, but the reason there's 7 is because Magneto's there, but he has the asterisk of a ticking time bomb of, like, he's going to leave either at the end of this movie or at any movie. It is similar to First Class, but I would not have him leave in the first movie. That was always my complaint in First Class, that I think they could have got a few more movies as far as building that tension. I think Magneto, you could even wait to the sequel or even the third one for him to be like, you know what, I'm done with this and I'm going to go somewhere else. And we've met enough mutants for me to create my own brotherhood. So that's my team.
I like your ideas of, I mean, that is a nice little turn, putting Magneto on the team. I mean, now, in our Hickman run, he is, all mutants are pretty much united at that point. So there is precedent. We had First Class where he was kind of on the team per se until he, wanted to go down a path of no return at that point. And I think you can do that. But I think, yeah, I really do like those, which you've assembled your team. It makes a lot of sense for what you kind of wanted at that point. We forgot real quick to give some of our little listener feedback from the first question of how to bring them up at that point. I know a couple of ones we mentioned, Walt Gator and Brent. There was one. Okay, yeah. Tony had another one. He's saying after Doctor Strange 2, Wanda will utter something that will make the existence of mutants a thing. She will also learn about them from WandaVision. I know our friend Greg is also a promoter of that idea as well. But yeah, some of our. Go ahead.
I think I'm just like you as far as I just feel that's a tad early for that event. It could eventually create that, but for that to be the direct response. I just feel like they were still even planning this Doctor Strange 2 Wanda crossover even before the Fox purchase was done. So that's why I feel like maybe now retroactively they might go, oh, hey, we could make this lead to this. But I just don't know if that was the original plan for that. But hey, there's kind of precedent for it, right? The
Yeah.
House of M is a very popular storyline. And I guess I'll have a better gauge of that after we see WandaVision, because we could see WandaVision and go, oh, this is completely about something else, and those X-Men theories were kind of a waste of time. So after WandaVision, I want to return to that conversation of, okay, maybe this is House of M or their House of M. But as of right now, there's just something, I just don't buy it yet.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of unknowns and a lot of things that just say, okay, we're gonna put this issue in there. But yeah, I mean, definitely a popular theory at that point. But looking at some of our listener feedback with teams, we had Tony who said, prefer if we got two teams, classic-ish one, calling Uncanny, Cyclops, Storm, Rogue, Nightcrawler, Kitty Pryde, Iceman, and Jean Grey, and then a team with not so familiar faces, maybe call them all new. Psylocke, X-23, who I know is one of your personal favorites,
Mhm.
Dazzler, North Star, Cannonball, Boom Boom, and Warpath. So that is definitely some very fresh faces there. Um,
Cannonball. Yeah, we're speaking about Civil
yep.
War. Yeah, that's a pull. Imagine that. And then in this X-Men, we got Cannonball, and everyone be like, okay, I guess we're, as long as he gets his route of X-Men. What is why am I forgetting the persona he takes on after Civil War when he's all bandaged? Penance. I would love him to be looking like Penance one day, but I don't think we're getting Penance.
Yeah, it's it's yeah. I think it's a little bit much right now. We got to at least crawl before we walk.
Yeah.
Our buddy Nathan said he'd like to see the '90s animated series line up for a team, and so badly want to see the relationship between Gambit and Rogue fleshed out. I agree with that.
Yeah, so I saw him tweet that, and I think I was on right before the network started. We were on SC together, and we were talking about X-Men coming in because there was all these rumors. I thought about having them, and I know we're going to talk about characters we want in the future. I thought about having them in my original lineup of X-Men because it is a classic tale, but two things that kept me. One, I think Scott and Jean will be our main romance. So I think having another romance on top of that right away, they'll wait on. And I don't think you'd get them at the same time. I think it would be a Rogue. And that's the reason why I think we would wait, because we got a lot of Rogue in the original trilogy. She was a big character with Wolverine, right? Because Wolverine had a lot of screen time and she was there with them a lot of it. So especially in that
yeah,
first one. And the other thing is that I am interested, I want to get your take on, is the Gambit and Rogue relationship. I wonder how they would approach that, because I've always said I don't think Marvel is that big into, they have romances, but it's, I guess the equivalent you could do is kind of, it's like Star-Lord and Gamora, but even them, they have at times I'd say Gambit has a very crass way of approaching things, of just a way that I think in today's day and age they might be afraid to go that far. So they may, I think, if done right, this Rogue and Gambit could be this generation's Hansel and Princess Leia. But I think just also with the times, they got to be careful, because even watching the 90 animated series nowadays, I go,
yeah,
there's a few lines that Gambit says, or just even like, honestly, there's one time where Rogue is sleeping and he just forces himself on her and kisses her. And that's where at that time you're like, oh, that's Gambit being Gambit. And they don't mean it to be anything as far as him being a terrible character like that. It was a different time, but now exactly times have changed. And I think there's a lot of that machismo with Gambit in their relationship that they might be afraid to touch. So that's why I think there's a chance that we could see them one day, but it will be very toned down, or we don't see it at all. I think there's a chance we could see them, like I said, even separately, but not even touch upon this romance. So what do you think about that? Because I think it's an interesting angle that they have to deal with.
yeah. I think his character definitely has to kind of tone down, just because it's just not going to be accepted. It shouldn't have been accepted then, but that was just that's how they wrote his character, and they kind of fell into that. But it's one of these. Gambit definitely's got to tone that down. I've always enjoyed their back and forth relationship. I've also enjoyed Rogue being with Magneto.
Yep.
I've enjoyed that idea. So it'd be nice to see maybe a little love triangle there, but I would like to see at least an acknowledgement and an attempt to have a relationship. But you know, they could just fall on Gambit's Cajun background and just being kind of a ladies' man per se, but not go. full tilt on it per se.
I agree, and we've seen that too with James Bond recently, right? That they've had to reel that back because that's a character, same thing as well. Lots of male machismo, lots of kind of womanizing, whatnot. And they've kind of gone, okay, this doesn't play the greatest anymore, you know. Especially MCU, I think is usually for the most part a pretty welcoming, like they want everybody. So if you have a character the way Gambit sometimes acted in the '90s animated series, I think for some people might be like I don't like the way this plays. I still want the romance just because I wouldn't be opposed to the Rogue and Magneto thing maybe being in there, but the romance just because that's one thing Fox never tackled. You know, it's something they left unturned, and I do think there is a great chemistry there. So I think it's something we could get, but I think more down the line. But I do want even more than just the romance. I do want a great Gambit one day because I liked Taylor Kitchen up, but Gambit's one of my favorite X-Men, and I really want to see a true adaptation of that character.
Yeah, and so we got some more listener feedback with at the Great Picnic. It says make Cyclops as endearing as Steve Rogers. He should be the glue that holds the team together. Get him right, and all will good. The team needs to be visually unique and striking. This ain't Avengers. These are the X-Men. And for gosh darn it, I'll agree with that. Except the costumes. Bring on the
Yep.
costumes. I want to see it.
Yeah,
um,
I agree with both those. When he said about Scott, you know, I already touched upon that, but the outfits, that's something where I don't know storyline and vibe they'll take from X-Men '90s, kind of that vibe and even the '90s animated series, but I could see them heavily taking the costumes from there because I think they know that's what in my mind, those are the costumes I see are the animated
mhm.
series Claremont runs, and they're just so visually stunning. And I
Yep.
remember at the end of what was it, Apocalypse, where they still look the
We
greatest,
got
but
him.
they finally were giving them that look. They had X-Men with the shoulder band, they had Mystique, and then the next movie they're this and these X uniforms that are yellow. It's just like, what were you doing? I think that's one thing as far as when I talked about things I like with the MCU having X-Men, they will do that. Look at how many suits Iron Man and Cap had. They're always adapting, always doing something different. And I think you'll get Wolverine with that cowl. You'll get some great looking X-Men. I really think. Even if it's just because they
Yeah.
want to sell toys, doesn't matter to me. You're gonna get some really distinguished, different looking X-Men.
Exactly, and then kind of tying into that per se, at Vermouth, 1991. Wouldn't it be cool if they incorporated the animated series theme tune into the opening music like they did in Spider-Man: Homecoming? That being said, though, it's still disingenuous to say, "Thank God they didn't show Uncle Ben dying and then have no Uncle Ben." So yeah, I would. Uh, it's just it's one of my favorite theme songs. It's just,
Oh yeah.
I can't even do it justice because I'm just gonna be made fun of left and right on that one. But yes, that
Have
yep, there
you
we go.
have
And
you
if they resolve the lawsuit that's currently trying to go on with it, because I look it up, listeners. There's a lawsuit going on, and it is, no pun intended, it is uncanny that this theme, the X-Men theme, is actually very close to possibly being copyright infringement on that point by a different one. I can't remember what it's from, but it was pretty darn close.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's one thing that disappointed me in the Spider-Man movies. I'm not a big fan of those scores, and I am a big fan of Michael Giacchino, sorry. But as far as movies and games, it's one of the weaker ones for me. And when they have that Spider-Man score, the classic theme, but almost done with an orchestra and everything, like this is great. But they just use it for the opening Marvel credits thing. I thought we were gonna get that throughout the whole movie. I get it, you want to make your own, but that's one of those changes where I go, oh, they should just embrace that. I would love it. I'm not sure. I can't remember the name of the channel, but I'm sure people have heard it. Look up Epic Animated X-Men Animated Series theme, and it is really well done. It is like a rock and roll version. It's really good, and that's what I would want. But that theme, yeah, anytime I hear it, my ears perk up. So I would love some sort of a corporation like that. But like you said, because of the lawsuit, their hands might be tied on that one.
Yeah, it'd be, we could drop little subtle hints. We could pull the Vanilla Ice routine. It's like, no, it's just a little different.
Yeah.
All right, so let's head into our villains that we would want to see in the first movie.
Yeah, so we've talked about this a few times. I don't think it will be Magneto. I want Mojo in the Mojo verse, but I think that's a wait. We'll get there. You know, that takes a little bit of build up. And of course, he is one of my favorite, like everyone's else. But again, with Apocalypse maybe being done not the greatest in that X-Men movie, and there not being much of build up, I think that is a Thanos for the X-Men world you can build up to. So I go with My one, and I think it's Mr. Sinister, or the cheap, easy answer is just the government and Sentinels, because we never really got that story. Like the first few episodes of the animated X-Men show are just them versus the Sentinels, and then Magneto gets introduced. But I think you could go that route of, oh, we want to give them some cheap, easy villains. This is easy. Get a great actor to play some government prick, and he's made this program that maybe, like you're talking about, the government was experiment on these mutants, but it went awry. They escaped or got out of control, and they gotta get it back in control. And that's what better way to bring a team together as far as we're being hunted down. We only have each other to depend on. So I think the Sentinels is a go-to, if not Mr. Sinister, just because in my mind Scott would be the main character along with Jean. And I think that way, one, it would flesh out Scott. You could have his family involved, and you could lay the breadcrumbs for a Thanos. It's the same kind of way they did with Loki and Avengers, as far as, oh, he was the main villain, but he had some other motives. There was someone behind the scenes. You could have that. I don't think they would tease that right away with Apocalypse, but I think Sinister you could keep alive. He could vanish, and then down the line you kind of tease that, okay, he is tied to Apocalypse. So when we want to pull that thread, you've met Mr. Sinister, you've met the corporation, the Essex Corporation, you've met Scott, you kind of know that story. So when we bring it back and Apocalypse is involved, it's already set up. So that's kind of my two. Easy answers, Sentinels, more layered. Sinister might be too much for the first film. So that's why if I had to predict, maybe just Sentinels. So
Yeah, I kind of thought the Sentinel route, but I wanted to be just a little different. I also chose Mr. Sinister, but he's not alone. I didn't want to just because I knew you would choose Sinister
yeah.
too, and I wanted to just throw a little curve in there. I do Mr. Sinister because of as kind of my theory is government possibly creating the mutants at that point. Geneticists that have been around for generations,
Mm-hmm.
if you know the background of Nathaniel Essex at that point. So that brings a lot of history into that, and maybe his kind of dabbling into this idea of mutants at that point, but also bringing in a villain that kind of fits in the same line of experimentation and things like that is Proteus,
Okay.
Moira McTaggart's son, and his power set of energy, reality manipulation, jumping into bodies. It could be kind of Mr. Sinister's kind of lackey on the ground
Yeah.
at that point, but also someone who's very powerful too. And whatever results out of this fight with the X-Men, Mr. Sinister and Proteus, brings about the Sentinel program saying, okay, this is a lot bigger problem than we can contain. We need to, we have our superhero registration act over here, and that didn't go so well. Now we've got to get a Sentinel program to deal with our mutant problem. So that's kind of what I'm looking at.
Yeah, and he's a character that, because again, almost like what I was talking about Bobby Drake, because of effects and MCU and CGI, you could kind of bring him to life now. I feel a little earlier could have not worked or could have looked cheesy, but he has a very
Mhm.
different look. He kind of looks like Voldemort at times, to be honest, but just the energy around him. So no, I like that. I think that
And,
could
and,
work out.
and is a key part of our favorite story, House of X, Powers of 10.
I was gonna say is, and then that, if more is in these movies, would you want the House of X route?
I mean, we're not there yet.
No.
I think that's something coming down the line at that point. I think it
But that's what I mean, like
just because
eventually getting that point where she is, because
yes,
for years she
yeah,
was not a mutant, right?
yep,
Yeah,
mhm,
that's what
yeah,
I meant more.
yeah,
Like she would be on
yeah,
eventually, even if it's movies down the line, you reveal, oh no, she has been a mutant, and that would be, I
mhm,
would love that sequence of the reveal of her being a mutant. If we got that
mhm,
anywhere close to movie form, my goodness, I would love that. Just
yeah.
everything that happens, what she goes through, oh, would be
Mhm.
phenomenal. Yeah.
Oh, it would be. We've got some of our listeners. Tony had an idea for his villain of the Uncanny movie. We've seen them go up against so dangerous of big villains. Let's see them go against the Brotherhood of Evil, Avalanche, Toad, Blob, Pyro, Mimic, Emma Frost, or Mystique. Villain for the all new movie, because remember he had two teams.
Hmm.
Would be Mojo and Spiral. I like it. Again, I like that he also didn't call out the Brotherhood being led by typically Magneto. I like the idea of either Emma or Mystique maybe leading it at that point. I think I also Tony, I was thinking along those same lines too at one point. I would love it at that point, team against team. You always want to make sure that we're not having too many things on screen, but
Yeah.
that would be so cool to have that kind of fight. If not in the first movie, definitely down the line, team against team. I think that's a great idea.
I would love it to happen because in X3 they tried that, but it was just them
Yeah.
versus like a bunch of like extras, right? But I think we've talked about this a few times that action scene in Civil War proves if you got enough time, and even if they flesh out the
Hmm.
villains a little bit, you could have a great set piece. And I even think something it'd be great if you could have Emma Frost leading it, but maybe somehow that leads to a switch if it was like my team as far as you could have Emma Frost with the Brotherhood and Magneto on the X-Men, and eventually they kind of switch places, allegiances because of just where their lives take them. So I think the Brotherhood led by someone else is definitely not out of the question. And then you could also pick it up of like, like a rebranding of a band, a Magneto jump ship, and it's like, no, we're gonna do things my way. And I think I would like we
Hmm.
got glances of the Brotherhood in the X-Men Fox films, but I would like the full flush out of a massive team. And yeah, give me Toad. I love that slimy guy.
Yeah. These next few are just kind of quick hits. I know we're running long at that point, but it's such a great discussion.
Mhm.
um, kind of quick ones like some storylines you want to be depicted. Some of mine, I've already, I would love Fatal Attractions, but you got to bring in Wolverine, so that may be a little further down the line. Age of Apocalypse, that would be a cool kind of, I know it was, oh, we've already done Days of Future Past. Not like this. This ain't no Days of Future Past. This is
Yeah.
a whole different ball game. And then the Mutant Massacre, their true first major X-Men crossover from the comics. I would love to see that fleshed out. Um,
Yeah, I kind of showed those out already, some House of X, some Ultimate X-Men, and I'm going to bring up Ultimate X-Men again in a second. I think Avengers versus X-Men could be a potential line. I also
mhm,
don't think it's like the greatest comic book, but I think there's some stuff in there that was worth keeping, worth revisiting. I want to, because we just like skipped over a little bit in the mission as far as, because like I said, I talked about storylines earlier. What's your deal with Wolverine and how do you think that happens? Because with me, with the Ultimate X-Men and what I refer to, I don't know necessarily that story in that team I think they'll be using, but as far as the Wolverine storyline, I think Wolverine, if they have every mutant kind of popping up right now in present day, I think they could make Wolverine this legendary, mysterious, mythic character of he was the first mutant. I know Apocalypse usually is, but let's say in their
mhm,
kind of conscious, he was the first mutant, and there's always rumblings about him. And in my kind of timeline, I think we would meet X-23 first. She'd be on the team, and let's say X-Men 2 or X-Men 3, maybe the villain's Weapon X. I think it's tough because they did Weapon X to death in those Fox movies, but let's say there is a version where, okay, she comes in the X-Men and they go, well, they find out what are your powers, blah, and they go, and somebody would acknowledge, oh, she was cloned from this a character, just a mythic person known as the Wolverine, and just that kind of whisper, almost kind of like a Voldemort sense. And I think you could the same way. I don't think we will get any love triangle between Scott, Jean, and Wolverine. I think that's been done before. I think Marvel will want to stay away from that because they did it a lot in the Fox films. But I think you could have X-23. She's introduced as the clone of Wolverine, and that builds up the mystique of when's he coming, when's he coming. And kind of like Ultimate X-Men, he could be on more the villainous side to be sent there to kill Xavier, to kill somebody. So that's kind of my approach with Wolverine as far as you bring him in slowly and maybe you bring him in a different way. Because if he's a villain off the bat, people might be like, oh, this is interesting, but people, because they love Wolverine, aren't going to cast him out. It's not like other characters where it's like, really, you're making him a villain? They love him enough that even if he was a villain for one movie or it was a cliffhanger, almost like he was Winter Soldier-esque as far as can we trust him, can we not? I think because people love Wolverine, there's lots of ways to move that people will give the benefit of the doubt. Go, okay, let's see what you're doing. We had, 12, 14 years, whatever it is with Hugh Jackman. We got tons of Wolverine. Let's do something different. And I think that's the approach. I think we'll get X-23 first. And you could, even if my approach is wrong about Wolverine being this mythic character or, the kind of this lone wanderer, I still think you'll get X-23 first and they will save Wolverine. And even if there is no X-23, they'll save Wolverine till maybe even a third film. I could legitimately see an entire X-Men trilogy with no Wolverine.
yeah, I do like the Ultimate X-Men point of view of him being kind of an assassin or just kind of a Black Ops kind of person. I'm not sure about X-23. I like
Mm-hmm.
it, but I think it gets a little confusing at that point. And I would love to see her on screen at that point as well. But I'm with you. I like the idea of the Ultimate X-Men version of Wolverine coming into play. He's one of mine that I want to see eventually come in because again, it's Wolverine. You can't have X-Men without having a Wolverine at that point. It kind of leads us into some of our other questions of some, what are the other characters you would want to eventually just eventually have come in to the X-Men either on a team or on solo route.
Yeah, I think there's some classics. I already talked about Gamma and Rogue. Beast is one I need to see what they do with Hulk, because I think if as long as Hulk is Professor Hulk, those characters are a bit too similar in my mind. So I think they'd like to wait for that. Like I said, X-23. I almost included her on my main roster, but I think she could be a legacy character that starts to lead the new X-Men once they kind of revamp it or something like that. Is Kitty Pryde? I think Kitty Pryde. I almost had her on my team right now as our lead, but I thought, well, no, I kind of want Gene and Scott to be the lead and really flesh them out. So, like I said, I think in a movie or two, you bring her in as a new lead, and then Emma Frost as well. Again, we talked about her, and then on the villain side, I've shown him out many times. I just have a love for Omega Red. I love the look. He's kind of cheesy, but that's a character I would like. Maybe you could tie it in with Weapon X or Wolverine down the line. But yeah, those are some of the ones I would shout out. I think I got everybody.
Yeah, some of the ones besides Wolverine I've got is Bishop,
Oh yeah.
Gambit, like you, Forge, love Forge, always been a huge Forge supporter. X-23, like you said, and a few kind of deep cuts at that point. Phantom X, I loved him on Uncanny X Force. He's such a cool character, and then Armor is kind of a new young hero coming
Mm.
in and her power set.
No
So those, yeah, some
morph.
of them.
No morph.
No, Morph, yeah, I was just trying to I could list everything I want, but yes, Morph would definitely be on my list too.
Another
Come on, it's a cool character.
Yeah, another person I had, but the reason I took her off was Magic. I thought you could have her, but with her just being a New
Yeah,
Mutants, I wonder with that they might steer away from it. But I thought again they could be, if New Mutants wasn't a thing, I think that could be likely, because I don't think we're getting Colossus anytime soon with potential Deadpool and whatnot. So I thought Magic could be a choice, but with New Mutants, maybe they'll go, we just did that. Let's do something else.
yeah, I wanted to put Magic on my list, and eventually, everything will be possible. They will be coming in.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um, our next one is: can we have spin-offs with different X teams, and if so, what teams? What do you think? Or we're gonna have X-Men proper, but is it going to be enough room to bring in our other X teams that have been so famously storied in the comics?
Yeah, I think 100%. I think as long as everything goes according to plan, that fans like it, critics like it, they do well. Because, hey, let's say they put out the first X-Men movie, they put out two, and for some reason, and we don't know what the world's going to be like in years, people always talk about superhero fatigue. I don't think that's going to set in the way people think. But let's say there's a time where it just goes backwards. If it all goes right, I think anything's in play. I think like the X-Force is in play. I know Nathan's talked about it on SC. I agree with him. Alpha Flight could be in play, maybe not in their own movie, but I think he does have a good pitch. I hadn't thought about that until like that's where you put Wolverine and the Alpha Flight, kind of what they should have done with Harley Quinn, Birds of Prey. I think kind of the sky is the limit with X-Men. And that's one thing, as far as if people are still digging comic movies, Marvel, X-Men, people say they got like another 10 years with X-Men. No, they got like another 10 to 20 to 30 years with X-Men. If people were really loving it, again, maybe we're not getting 4 films a year, but X-Men, you have so much cut up. That's why I'm always down for another Batman movie, because people always go, another Batman movie. And I go, there's so many characters and villains that we have still not met in these movies, and we've had so many. So X-Men's the same. I don't think there's a team that is not possible, to be honest.
Yeah, it's X Factor, X Force. I mean, these could be way down the line after, just of what it is. I mean, you can go the X Factor route of when, Scott and Jean kind of they broke off at that point, or you could go, the multiple man route and have them be, a detective agency or an agency looking into different issues. So it's just, there's so many different iterations, and then kind of our bringing it to a close. Our discussion, which will probably be ongoing at that point. And obviously, listeners, we didn't put all the questions out there, but if you've got some responses, definitely would, enjoy. That is, what solo movies would you want to see?
It's tough because I've heard this conversation from everybody of like, do you take the Avengers approach and then you bring them together? I am more in the camp that for majority, I want my X-Men to be together. And if they're solo movies, it's kind of like what we talked about, where it's like, it's not a solo movie in a sense. It's like a bunch of people creating another team and going that route. I do just think from a money standpoint, Wolverine is not done with solo movies. I think whether it's my way, whether it's Chris' way, whether it's Marvel's way, however they introduce that character, I think there is prime potential for him to be on the plate. And same thing, there's tons of stuff. I think they need to be careful because, this might surprise some people on the network with Robert Pattinson's Batman coming up. In concept, I was not a fan of it. I've seen enough of young Batman. That's why I was a fan of Ben Affleck's Batman. Like, I want the older, gritty. He's been through many times. Luckily, they go, "Hey, Matt Reeves is directing. We're doing the Riddler. Oh, I haven't seen a great Riddler on screen yet. Oh, we got Zoe Kravitz. Oh, so they sold me on. But at first, like, I've seen this before. Do we really need to go down this path? Wolverine, you could have that issue with, but I think they will find some storyline that will make it seem different enough, some kind of uncovered ground. And I just think money wise, there's too much left on the table to just not do a Wolverine movie. And obviously, I guess Deadpool kind of counts, and X-Men. I think that's a murky area as far as, no pun intended, murky. But like, I don't know what they're doing with that. Some days I think, oh, for sure, but then they've just been so quiet. So I really want some confirmation on that. But really, other than Wolverine, there's no one that I'm like gleaming to see. Like, I don't need that Gambit solo film. I don't need that. I'm not opposed, perhaps, but I prefer them as a unit.
Yeah, I mean, there are some that just pie in the sky in the sense of like I am one of the ones that's Gambit because I like he's a character with a backstory. I just one film, I'm good.
Yeah,
One solo
one
film.
film. Yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
one,
yeah,
one we don't have to turn everything into a trilogy at that point. Storm is another one with a very cool backstory at
yeah.
that point, and one of my favorites that eventually to come in at that point would be Cable. I would love to see a Cable solo film
That'd be
or
wild.
him taking over as the main leader of X Force. That would be cool.
Yeah, no, I'd be, and
So
that's the same thing. I'm not like a super opposed to those. I'm down for all of those. So those, I could easily be talking into it. Any X-Men, you could probably talk me into it.
yeah. So, but yeah, that was a. Whew, we're gonna be hopefully we'll have to revisit as hopefully soonish in the year down the line. Maybe we'll get some more and have to revisit this. But yeah, listeners, hopefully you enjoyed some of our our ideas at that point. But would love to hear back from you. So continue to let us know what you think. We'll read them on the air. But for the listeners that did take the time to do that as well for this one, thank you. I appreciate it. Those were some great ideas and great feedback for what you want to see coming out of the X-Men with the MCU.
Oh, absolutely.
Whew, this was a lot. That was an experience.
Yeah, yeah. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Chris and I hope you're enjoying another edition of the Marvel Alliance podcast. We're about to throw some ads right now. These ads help build the channel. They help support every single show here on the feed. The thing is, who we're partnered with, we don't get to select the ads and we don't get to select the volume of the ads, unfortunately. So we're giving you this warning to adjust your headsets, turn down that volume so you can listen to all these ads and support the Geek Ultimate Alliance. I'm going to give you a countdown. You're going to hear some ads and then you're going to go right back into the episode. 3, 2, 1.
But you want to get into some of my fact or fiction? I have kept it along the same theme. These are all X-Men themed.
Okay, I'm ready. Hit me with them.
All right. So I'm gonna say, like I said, I've got 4. I'm gonna pick the one I know I want to put. Okay. The MCU will devote half of one of their upcoming phases to introduce the X-Men.
Oh, so that would be like in film by name, right? Like you would know off the jump this is dedicated to X-Men.
Yeah, yeah, something along like it's gonna be very clear they're within solo movies or a X-Men proper film. They will devote half of one of their phases to properly introduce the X-Men.
I think fact, because like I said, I think if it hits and it takes off, they're running and they have so much potential. Like you said, X Factor, X-Men, Wolverine. You could do solo spin-offs. So yeah, I would go fact. I don't have much of a reason to pitch against you. If you were to say like phase 5 or 6 specifically, then I'd say I don't know, but one of the upcoming ones could be even 7. I think eventually it will snowball into X-Men having a big stay in the MCU. So I'm going to say fact on that one.
Yeah, and I'm saying fact on this one too, just because it doesn't have to be solo movie to bring a team. However, the X-Men are just too big of a juggernaut, pun intended, to to just start doing a movie. You can, I mean, people say, well, that's how the Fox did. That's true, but I'd like to see a little more flesh out, and then we get our team at that point. But I'm saying fact as well with this one.
Plus, they could do
Um,
crossovers with other characters, right? Like a
yeah,
Thor Ragnarok style, where Wolverine's in this, Storm's in Black Panther 4, whatever. Like that. I could see a lot of that.
yeah. One of the major final movies in one of the phases will be an X-Men Avengers team up.
So team up would that also count for like an X-Men versus Avengers or no?
You could at that point. I just don't. I didn't want to say versus
Okay.
just
So
because
just a movie of them together.
I'm just a movie of them together. If they want to be fighting, great. But I'm just saying a team up at that point. And you know what? Why not throw the Fantastic Four? And we'll have one big, one big. But for this one, yeah, one of the end of the phases will be an Avengers X-Men team up.
I think so. I think you will get, because everyone says how to get back to Endgame. I think they're doing the right step as far as we're going back to basics. Black Widow, Eternal Shang-Chi. We're going to start very small, but I think eventually you will get another big battle, whether it's them versus Galactus, them versus Apocalypse, them versus a Doctor Doom, a returning Thanos. Who knows? But I think you will. That is that next step. Like, well, how do you top all these Avengers and Guardians and Spider-Man together? Well, we haven't done Avengers and X-Men yet, and you haven't seen Wolverine and Spider-Man on screen together yet. So it's like, and then you go, oh yeah, that looks pretty great. I'm gonna go see that. So I do think you'll get some big event. I know there's been like ultimatum rumors and stuff like that. I think whatever the event is, you will see it at the end of one of these phases.
Yeah, and yeah, I'm also this is a what big fact for me, just because it's two great teams. I mean, I know Fantastic Four is a team, but again, four versus the rosters on both Avengers and X-Men can be vast at
Yeah.
that point. So my last one is, I'm going to save that one for another time. It's X-Men focused, but
Ooh.
I'll save that one for another time. I will. This one will be kind of ties in what you were talking about earlier. We will see Deadpool in the MCU, but it will be in an X-Force movie, not a solo movie.
Yeah, this is tough because we know Reynolds has met with them.
Absolutely nothing to do with Rob Liefeld. I'm sorry. This is
Yeah, yeah.
this is just Deadpool.
It's, and even before the Rob Liefeld stuff came in him, like, and I don't even know. I believe I have always still had a hard time of them because he is very radar and he is very crude. But so he will be in the MCU. Uh, I I'll say fact.
How about how about this? How about this? I have a caveat that may help you out a bit. Like I said, we will see him. His debut in the MCU will be in an X-Force movie, not a solo movie. How's that?
Hmm. Uh, yeah, I will say fiction right now. Not even because just exports, just because I don't know if he has come to the MCU. I really don't. I could see there being more Deadpool movies and maybe some MCU jokes, but I'm gonna say fiction because they've just been so quiet. And I know Bob Iger said they're writing a movie, they have plans for a movie, but they've never when he was talking about that Deadpool movie, that's when he was also talking about other Fox movies like Planet of the Apes and stuff like that. They never did. Like, I always take that quote when Feige's like, we didn't even get a chance to talk about the mutants. We didn't get a chance to talk about Fantastic Four at Comic Con. He didn't say Deadpool, and I know people are going, well, Deadpool is a mutant, so that counts. I know, but I feel like Deadpool is its almost own entity now. So I'm gonna say fiction because I'm still in the camp that I don't know if he's gonna be in the MCU. So I'll say fiction.
Yeah, the reason I'm going to say fact on this one, I'm 3 for 3 with fact. But the reason for this one is that it gives them a way of wiggle room to see how can we push the envelope with Deadpool, because an MCU R-rated movie is just, it's not yet.
No.
I say yet. We're not there yet. But this allows us to do X-Force, which is a paramilitary black ops team. How far can we push a PG-13 rating on an MCU film, have Deadpool, and do that? I know they say, oh, they did that with the Deadpool 2 PG-13 movie. I'm talking about, like, let's do it really properly. Let's not just
Yeah.
do something like, let's see how far we can push that envelope with not only X-Force but also with Deadpool at that point. So that's why I'll say fact. It gives them a chance to see what they can do.
Yeah, that's true. No, those are some good points. So yeah, next week I'll try and think of some stingers for you because that Deadpool one that's a tough one. It's I'm excited to
Yeah.
hear more on that in the
Well, when you
future.
brought it up, I was like, "Oh, he's not gonna like this one. He's gonna say dirty pool." But yeah, so those are my factor of fiction. So yeah, so we got comic book club. You want to I say we do our announcement for our next one.
Yeah,
We're
yeah, sure. So yeah,
um
yeah, you go ahead.
yeah, I brought it up to you this week, when we were talking about doing, an X-Men focused show that, it was either going to be this week or next week we were going to make choices, but I know you were get back into reading this arc and I was just starting it. I said, "You know what? I really just want to do this with this particular one with the listeners." And I said, "Would it be cool to maybe not do a choice this iteration of comic book club, and then maybe the next one, and obviously the next one we do, we'll put it out there for choice."
Hmm.
And when you asked what the choice was, I was saying, I kind of want to do House of X Powers of 10, just because of how monumental a shift this brought into the X-Men universe. And I think it would be cool that it is it's just outstanding story that has shocked uh, X fans all over, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree, and that's what we'll do going forward. That we're still gonna do polls and whatnot, but that's a good thing with lots of these issues like Civil War. It's only a 7. Power is a 10. I think in total, it's not too big. Like it's not like it's
I think it's 10 or I think it's 12
yeah.
issues
So that's
total.
only
Six
yeah.
for House of X, six for Powers of 10.
Yeah, so it's only a couple months, but the good thing is we plan on doing this show for a while, and that's what we're probably going to do in the future. That we're still going to have fan vote one, like Chris said, the next one will be. But I think in the future too, we will do like when Black Widow comes up. I'd love us to cover a Black Widow one because that's a character that I've not read much of. Some things like even I know Chris has read some Grant Eternals run. I've read Zippo Zero Eternals. I know very little about them other than I did research for the podcast. You pull up the wiki, you kind of talk to other people that read them. So that's where in the future I think we will every once in a while pick say, hey, this time we're going to do it to tied to a character, tied to an upcoming movie. Because I think that's also good too, something for Eternals. I know there's probably tons of people out there like myself that don't know much about the Eternals. So one, it's kind of an educating one. And I think that's the same thing with this as far as one, it's just a great comic book. And I think you and I can have some great discussions about it. It's a great run. But I think it's also good for if anyone's missed it, one, maybe get you in on it, but two, kind of talk about the ramifications going forward and talk about, hey, maybe it could have some effects in the movies because we've seen that before where they like to adapt stuff that is currently happening. So yeah, once Civil War is done, we're going to do House of X. So get ready for that. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And that's the same thing. When we choose them, I think we're going to choose ones that you guys won't be like, oh, this is a really random one. Like if we choose something to tie to the movie, like I said, I think that's educational or House of X. I think people will be excited. Like, oh, okay, we're going to do some really big ones. So I'm
Yeah,
excited
I
to
mean,
start after.
it's gonna be a long one just because you can't do just House of X and without Powers of 10 just because it
Yeah.
ties in so well together at that point. And it's just such what Hickman did was I'd never been this excited since House of M. When Bendis was brought on board at
Hmm.
that point. I know both of them are on Marvel Unlimited at that point, so it is the full both sets are on there. It is not on necessarily Comixology Unlimited, but it is available to purchase. And for kind of every day, I get an email from Comixology about deals that they have going on for percentages off. So we still got some time. We're only at the halfway point today with Civil War. So just be on the lookout for that. I'm excited about it. I've been looking for an excuse just to do another run at this.
Yeah.
You can't tell already how much of a fan I am of this.
Oh yeah, no,
So
I'm excited.
if you've never read it, guys, ladies, everyone, this is gonna be a fun one. It really is. I mean, I've already enjoyed doing, with Civil War Comic Book Club. I think this is gonna have some interesting discussion points.
Yeah, I
So,
agree. It's one of those
but
great
yeah,
runs, and it's one of my favorites as well. So yeah, so now we're in a Civil War, and we're talking issue 4, correct? So, what did
it's
you?
issue 4.
Yeah, what did you think about this? Is a I'd say definitely a big issue. Sometimes a little controversial, but yeah, what did you think about this
Got,
one?
got a big moment bookends.
Yeah.
This is we and then in the middle we kind of get, oh shoot, what just happened. It had a lot of emotions going on where the big moment of not only seeing Thor come down, but this is not our Thor. at least not the Thor that we're familiar with. And he kills Goliath in the ensuing battle, and it just stops everything. Is like, what just happened? And kind of Invisible Woman kind of showing her true colors in the sense of she is done trying to stand up on Tony's side and Reed's side and finds them a way out. And then kind of both sides kind of come into grips of this one. It's like neither side wanted it to work out like this. Like this was a I think both of them have a lot to think had a lot to think about. I'm glad both of them were kind of wrestling with this on either side of I don't know if I want to be a part of this team. And they say, well, are you going to join the other team? I don't know if I want to join any team at this point because you guys made some massive mistakes on both sides. But we'll save the ending for the reveal at the end of the bookend. But I love the how the heroes are still not sure about are they really on the right side. Even the leaders are just like, I mean, I think I take it back. Cap's firmly in his camp. I think Reed is very firmly in his camp. I think Tony is just he's having not necessarily he knows he's doing the right thing, but this is not what he wanted to have go down.
Yeah.
This was not. I like seeing that side of Tony because I agree with as we said before. I think the movie really made Tony's side relatable. I think this one has tried to make him more of the villain, but it's these moments here that says that people seem to forget that Tony was not as. I mean, if anyone want to look at the bigger villain, it should be Reed. Reed can't
Hmm.
see past his own the science, the possibilities of this, while Tony's starting to have not as second thoughts, but just he's seeing the ramifications of his decision.
Yeah, we've talked about before how all these issues have been something. It's all been the inciting incident or the escalation or the line drawing. This was all about questioning, and you see everybody from Peter Parker to Susan Storm to even Cable, which always threw me off. That Cable is one of the people that jumped over. When I still don't buy it. I honestly don't. When he's like, "Well, they got Thor, best jump over." I still, in my mind, picture Cable as like the guy. Like, I'm going to go down swinging. So I've always found that one a little off. But a bunch of characters are questioning, okay, I chose the side, but is it the right side? Am I doing the right thing? And for both sides, you see many angles. Again, Tony Stark at the funeral, you think this woman's going to ream him out, but no, it's like, no, this was Goliath's fault. He should have been with you. And it's not because when we saw that last time at a funeral, Tony got his face spat at, everything like that. It was his motivation, where this was, no, you're doing the right thing. So again, when a moment where he's so low, he almost gets reaffirmed of, no, you're doing the right thing. Keep going. So and the Reed stuff, it's funny we talked about this at our Fantastic Four episode, where I'm like you. Another thing we have in common, that Susan Storm is my favorite member of the Fantastic Four. And I've not read too many Fantastic Four books. I've read a few, but I remember this being a big moment of really liking this character. Not just that, okay, she does a cool turn and she puts the shield up. What I loved was the goodbye to Reed, that whole note, because it's just so personal. And it's something when I read it, like, this is like kind of storytelling, something I'd love to see in a movie 101. Of it's like, hey, I gave you this dinner brain food. We made love one last time. And it's just like, I did not want you to remember me that moment. I wanted you to remember the good, even though I'm completely ashamed of you. So it's like she's feeling such kind of ill will and hatred towards this husband, this man she loves, but she knows he's misguided. He knows there's still heart there, and she's hoping he could find a way to fix all this, but she just does not view him as being right. But she still didn't want to just go and blaze a glory in an argument. Like I said, they spent like one last night together in this context. And I remember reading that for the first time, being like, you know what, I'm a Susan Storm fan. Like, that's my member of the
Mhm.
Fantastic Four, and
She
it's great.
she is just that those moments. It's not just standing up to Reed. It's about saying, I still love you. She said, I love you more than you know at that point, but I can't stand by you while this is happening with our friends. You are going down a path that, quote, it sounds like a little Star Wars episode 3. You're going down a path that I can't stand with you anymore.
Yeah.
I can't see myself with you anymore. And maybe if this shakes you out of what you're doing, so be it. But, she her and Johnny I think are, you know, I was very impressed to see her make that stand and to be as strong of a character as she's always been, but not always portrayed. I think there's always been more to Sue than, and I think it's in recent years that we have seen more of Sue be the leader that she really is. Um, it's seeing that Thor is basically a clone-ish.
Yeah.
um, that this all came about dating back to when they first met Thor, getting a hair follicle at that point, that they've been trying to do this, and knowing that the mad scientist, guess what? Your Frankenstein can't be controlled as much as you think it does.
Yeah, I love that little like he's had it since the first meeting at Avengers Tower. That's very like Batman-esque of like how do I beat the entire Justice League? Like
Hmm.
that was that moment. So I liked again it was showing a side of Tony where again it's not exactly villainous. He was just planning for what could happen the worst. And that is their Superman in a way, right? He's a god, he's so powerful what could happen. But in this sense it's not to take him down, it's to bring him back and make him this like kind of at first he seems like regular Thor, but then it's the Pet Cemetery thing. As the longer he's around, something's wrong. And there's this one brutal quote where Dagger says, "I thought you were dead," and then Thor goes, "No, that would be you." And then he hits her with the hammer, and it's just such a like, oh my god, like this Thor is like Thor. Of course, is a warrior, but that was a moment like, okay, something is wrong because he wouldn't be treating he would treat villains like that, but he wouldn't be treating people comrades in a way like that, right? So and then once the Goliath thing hits, I remember that happening the first time reading that and just being like, and even then I at first honestly I did
Yeah.
not put two and two together that it was a clone Thor or something, and I just thought, man, they're really sacrificing the character of Thor right now. And then luckily we get that reveal of, hey, something went wrong, we thought this would be the ultimate weapon. And it just sets off this chains of events of like we talk about every character, Peter right away being like, maybe this was a big mistake. And then even him talking with Hank and Hank kind of getting mad at him, being like, hey, I'm not detached enough that I've lost an old friend that I wouldn't feel bad about this. So, and even just this, it's just like any great panel or any great shot in the movie. When we get that first shot or first panel of Goliath's funeral, and it's just that massive gravestone and everything like that,
Hmm.
it just really said, and one, it's just morbid and really depressing, but just how they couldn't shrink them. It's just sad. It's just like, it really puts in a context
Yeah.
of, yeah, they lost a friend, but it's now you have a grave site the size of a football field. If you haven't figured out this is in front of your face, like you or could be making a huge mistake. And I love Tony. He paid for the whole funeral. And then it just, again, it's almost like, and I some of these begin this episode how I watched Dark Knight in theaters, and that's my favorite movie of all time. And always people just throw at me, it's like, oh, because you're such a Batman guy. Yes, that has something to do with it. But what I love about that movie is, to me, the theme of it, and lots of people always go, why is it about Gordon and Two-Face and Batman? It should just be a Batman movie. No, the movie's about Gotham. The movie's about how far is each man willing to go to take someone down. And I think that's what the Civil War is turning into now. When it ends with the Thunderbolts, it's showing each side, okay, you want to take down Tony, you want to take down Cap, that's fine. But now, how far are you willing to go? Because now we're getting to that point where you've crossed the line. Each step, you're getting
Yeah.
further and further away from that line. And then turning to the Thunderbolts, I remember reading that as the first time, just being like, okay, now they're playing dirty. If they weren't playing dirty before, they're turning to actual villains to help them out. That's when I was like, I'm fully Team Cap. I can't support
Yeah.
this. So it was a
Yeah.
great ending.
No, it was just having that reveal, and it seems Reed is everyone could say this is their version of the Suicide Squad, especially when they say, oh yeah, they're going to be tagged and
Yeah.
chipped. Oh, we know what those chips are going to be. but but yeah, seeing the ending shot of we've got Bullseye, Venom, Taskmaster, Hawkeye, Lady Deathstrike, Jack O' Lantern, all that group there. It makes it for, oh god, okay,
Yeah.
we've entered a new phase that you're right. I mean, I can't agree with that either. It's just it's never got that far gone that we've got to start compromising our morals for that.
Like,
But yeah,
imagine if we
so
started
heck,
doing that in society. If the police said, hey, to take down this other group, we're going to let out criminals from people that are murderers, not just people that maybe like didn't pay their taxes. We're going to let out murderers, people that were massive crimes, maybe even terrorists, and they're going to help us out. As the public, I would be scared to death if that was a real situation. I would go, I am questioning the government that is running my country right now if that's what we're doing, and we have no other way to get together. So it's like you said before, every issue ends with that great, right when you think, oh, they've done everything, it's like another addendum, like, oh my god, like seeing Venom there with his gross smile and everything like that, this is who's helping us out, okay. And then it's just like, what could happen next? And they just did such a good
yeah.
job of keeping you interested and not feeling like a gimmick.
Yeah, no. So, all right, we got three more. We got three more issues.
Yeah.
So we're gonna see what where we go from there. But yeah. So wow, great episode. We thought like what was it? The last episode of the episode before that was longest. This is definitely gonna be our
Oh
longest
yeah,
episode.
volume 6 is the longest one, but yeah.
Um,
So yeah, you don't even gotta throw to me. Travis B. Snail on Twitter. That's where you can find me. Whether I'm talking about GeekVerse, whether I'm on Marvel Alliance or anything else. Check us out this week on July 11th is our 5-year. We'll be streaming it for GeekVerse, but yeah, it's our 5-year anniversary. Send in your questions.
woo-hoo.
But yeah, no, it's crazy. It's crazy. It's been half a decade, but it's just we get everyone together. We set aside time and we just kind of shoot the shit. Like my question to the whole cast is like rank your favorite chips and chocolate bar. Like that is a full cast where we're just being fun and we're kind of just reminiscing. So yeah, and thanks to everyone that listens to this. I hope you enjoyed the X-Men conversation. I had a great time as usual, Chris, and I'm happy we got to do this. And I'll be excited for down the line when we get some actual substantial news. But it was fun to like sit back and fantasy book and Monday back quarterback and everything like that. So I thought it was
Yep.
a really good one.
Kevin Feige, we know you're listening.
Oh yeah.
We're not necessarily going to be cheap, but we're not also going to be Robert Downey expensive. So
I'll be
I
cheap.
know.
You can you can buy me a bag of sweet chili Miss Vicky's, which is a chip brand in Canada, and I'll sit in a room and write for you for days.
Okay, I'm not going to sell myself that short at that point, but Travis, okay, we'll do that. But no, as always, great. And congratulations to you all at GeekVerse. I'm glad we're a small part of your all's history, and thank you for letting us be a part of that. But yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Chris Balga. The show's Twitter handle is at Marvel A Podcast. You can email the show at marvelalliancepodcast@gmail.com, and you can follow the Geek Ultimate Alliance on Twitter at GUA Pod Network. We have a Patreon, so feel free if you want to get some either ad-free episodes, early episode drops, and some of our, we've got a few exclusives up there, but we're going to get some more up there very, very soon. Feel free to tweet or email, provide us feedback, give us questions, and continue to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, whichever podcast you're listening to. Thank you, listeners. Thank you, Travis. Thank you, everyone, as always. And Excelsior, true believers.